Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's product briefing. I'm Alex Schuker, CTO at DrayTek UK and Ireland, and I'll be your presenter for today's session. The topic today is an overview of the products we've launched or are launching this quarter, with a focus on our new GFAST supporting routers and also our first routers which support Wi-Fi 6. So the agenda today is an introduction of our GFAST routers. Just going to do a bit of a recap on the DSL technologies involved and explain the kind of features and differences of the 2766 and 2866 series compared to the other products in our range, a bit of comparison and a closer look at all of those features. Then we'll look at the AX routers. So we've already launched the AX supporting access points, but now we have some AX supporting routers that we're launching that are becoming available. So I'd like to look at those models and tell you a bit about those capabilities. Then at the end we'll have a Q&A, as I mentioned. So let's just look at the DSL technologies and just have a recap of the different technologies that are used in the UK. ADSL kind of started in around the turn of the century, and then VDSL followed in 2009, and then GFAST followed after that, around a couple of years ago. It's not had the rollout that was originally thought. It's kind of originally was going to be kind of something like potentially 10 million lines, but it's only 2.5 million. Because Openreach have moved across more to FTTP, but there is some GFAST out there, and the GFAST supporting products do also support VDSL as well, so they're backwards compatible. So it just gives you extra options if there happens to be a line that's in an area that does have GFAST enabled. It allows you to use these routers, but also you can use them on VDSL lines as well. So here's the different types of connection. Broadly, there's kind of four to five types of broadband technology listed in this chart. Starting at the top, the oldest is just your ADSL2 base, which is copper from the exchange to the cabinet, and then again copper for the last little loop, which is normally kind of around kind of 100, 200 to 500 meters, but in some cases can be more, up to a couple of kilometers. Then we have the hybrid ones, which are fibers of the cabinet that have fiber up to the cabinet and then copper for the last few hundred meters. And in that section of DSL, we have the products we're talking about today, which is VDSL 35B and GFAST. And I'll go on to comparing those a little bit. 35B isn't something that's used by Openreach, but it's something that is around, and I just wanted to explain the differences because it's something that the new products are capable of. And then we have the other technologies as well, a kind of partial fiber, which is mobile broadband, which really is kind of cell-based technology, but it does then from the cell tower have fiber going back to the main network. And then we have Virgin Media, which is a fiber-based technology that then has coax as some part of it, and then full fiber is the kind of FTTP and lease lines technologies. So we look at GFAST and 35B, kind of what's the difference in those and how do they compare to VDSL? Well, if we look at this graph here, which shows the line length at the bottom in meters, and then across the other axis is the rate in megabits per second. We can see GFAST can potentially get speeds of up to 700 megabits per second theoretically in the 106 megahertz frequency range. This allows you to potentially have higher speeds up to around kind of 300 and kind of 400 meters compared to VDSL 2. But in practice, actually, the speeds are a lot lower. In real world deployments, the GFAST current real world throughput is around 330 megabits per second. This is because the target line profile that the network operator has configured their equipment to work towards is set to around 330. So even if a line could potentially offer speeds higher than 330, it's capped at that by the network operator, in this case Openreach. The reason they do this is so that based on their experience of different loop lengths and the typical speeds that are achievable, and to give kind of good line stability, and also a good chance of achieving the rates that they're kind of advertising. Because if they advertise GFAST as, say, being kind of 500, 600 megabits per second, but in practice, not many customers are close enough to achieve these speeds, then customer expectation would kind of be misaligned with what the customer is likely to achieve, and that would create further difficulties. So the typical speeds at which you can get up to kind of 330 is around 250 meters, and the other technology here, VDSL2 35B, is something that's not used by Openreach, but it is deployed in some places. It's kind of on the in the Isle of Man, so it is kind of available, but it's also more widely deployed in some European countries. You'll notice it's called super vectoring. This is not to be confused with vectoring-enabled VDSL lines that are available in some areas. The vectoring technology only became kind of standardized after the UK's VDSL rollout started, so hasn't been implemented on every line. What vectoring does is it helps prevent a problem called crosstalk, which has proved to be a significant problem with VDSL, because if you've got multiple copper lines that are close to each other, they can cause interference, and that can cause the achievable speed of each connection to be slightly lower as they're bundled together, because the electrical interference can go across the distance between the lines when they're in the bundles. And what vectoring does is it helps reduce the impact of crosstalk by intelligently managing the high frequency crosstalk between bundled lines. And 35B is called super vectoring because in addition to using higher frequency ranges, vectoring it is a core part of how 35B enables lines to reach higher speeds. To compare the different technologies directly, we can see here GFast, 35B and VDSL2. And the typical performance is for GFast is up to 330 megabits downstream, and the 35B is up to 180, and then the VDSL is up to 80. So let's now have a look at which products support these. So the 2766 and 2866 support GFast and VDSL 235B super vectoring, but also the 2765 and 2865 support super vectoring, and then all of our DSL products, apart from the 2832, support VDSL2. Now let's take a look at these new models in more detail. Starting at the top level, if we look at the 2766, this is a router that provides a great kind of one-box solution with flexibility to connect to lots of different ISPs and line types. The integrated DSL modem is able to support to connect to ultra-fast GFast and also super-fast VDSL, so the fiber to the cabinet services, but also it can connect to ADSL as well. It alternatively can connect directly to an Ethernet WAN port, so you can connect to cable modems or FTTP connections. This is because you've got a switchable port on the LAN switch. So the 2766 is well suited to small offices and home offices up to around 30 users, although be aware that if you've got remote users, it only supports up to 2 active VPN tunnels. And any of the connections can be configured to be failover, including a 4G option via USB, but the product itself is single WAN active, so it can't do load balancing. And then if we look at the 2866, it builds on the 2766 capability and is able to handle more users and more complex networks. It's recommended for around 30 to 50 users, including remote workers, and it supports more active VPN tunnels and has the same great features that you're used to in our other range of 2865 products, and it has excellent VPN performance and provides extremely reliable internet access. Multiple connections can be load balanced or be used in failover, and you've got 4G connectivity supported as well, both with a variant that supports that with a built-in SIM slot. That's the LAC model with the integrated 4G modem SIM, but also any model that has USB modem support via the USB ports, so you can plug in a separate USB dongle. The 2866 can utilize all the connections at once and also supports a quality-based load balancing, so you can kind of look at connections and the quality. So rather than whether or not the connection is up or down, you can look at jitter and packet loss and decide to using the quality-based load balancing, have a connection be used rather than one that's providing a problem for them, so that it allows your VoIP calls, video calls to go over the better WAN. And on the wireless models, you've got internet access. So on the 2866, it supports up to 6 active connections in total. So you could potentially have 6 connections at any one time, but typically you'd be using kind of 2 or 3, I think, in typical scenarios. So let's look closer at the performance. The 2866 offers the same sort of impressive NAT and VPN performance as the 2865 and 2927. They also share the same processor, so they've got the same sort of horsepower under the hood. On the kind of total WAN throughput, it's 1.3 gigabits per second of combined throughput, and then on a single WAN, it's up to 900 megabits per second of Ethernet WAN throughput when you consider all the overheads. The IPsec performance is fast enough to make use of that performance for your VPNs as well, so you can get up to 800 megabits per second with hardware acceleration. The hardware accelerator is able to accelerate up to 16 of the VPN tunnels. The 2766, although slightly lower spec, still gives you pretty good performance. It's 200 megs VPN performance. That's triple the previous generation. The 2765 is a current generation, so it has the same performance, referring to things like the 2762 and 2760. And SSL VPN also gets a similar boost in performance with 130 meg on the 2866. So, I mean, these are fast enough speeds that with a VPN tunnel, you maybe use it with a 3910 as a VPN concentrator, but it'd be hard to tell that it's actually a VPN, because even if the tunnel's securely connected with AES 256 encryption, you're still going to get really impressive throughput speeds. And then if we sum it up by looking at the whole range, I know there's a lot of products on here, but just to reiterate, all of these are still current products. So even though we've got the 2866 and 2760 being available, the other models in here are still current. Although we do have some supply issues at the moment where some products are out of stock, they're still current, and we're still going to be getting those in. But the 2866 and 2760 just add to the supply, so it means that there's hopefully going to be better availability. So this kind of chart shows the different ones and different types of WAN connections you can get on those. So if we take a look at the 2766 in a little bit more detail and look at the different variants now. We've got the 2766, 2766 AC and 2766 VAC. So these are the 3 models that we're launching at the moment. And the main differences between the variants is that the AC model has wireless and the VAC model has wireless and VoIP capability. This is through 2 RJ11 phone ports, so you can plug an analog phone into it, and then with your preferred SIP provider, have an account, and then you're able to make VoIP calls over the internet. The AC model's wireless is AC 1300, class of 802.11 AC, so that's Wi-Fi 5. We look at the back, you can have a look at the design. If we just go from left to right, we've got the aerials on the outside, and then we've got the USB port there, and the yellow labeled 3 and 4 is the 4-port switch. The special port there on the left is port 4. This is changeable, so this can be toggled as either a LAN port or a WAN port. So if you have FTTP, you'd enable port 4 to be a WAN port, and then you can connect directly to that to your FTTP connection. Then we have the port 5, labeled 5 there is the DSL port, and then we've got on the VoIP models the 2 phone ports, on-off switch and power plugged at the back. And then at the very front, you've got LED indicators to say if the line's synced and that it's operating normally. And if we take a look at the 2866 series, we've got a few variants here. So we've got the non-wireless, the wired model, the 2866, and then we have the 2866 AC, which has Wi-Fi 5 wireless, the 2866 VAC, which is similar to the 2766, has wireless but also 2 VoIP ports, and then we have the LAC with the L suffix. Indicates that it supports the built-in SIM. It has 2 SIM slots, so you can put up to 2 cards in, but it's single active at any one time. And then the last one in the range, which is not available yet, but will coming soon, is the 2866AX, which is a Wi-Fi 6 supporting model, which is very similar to the AC model in all the kind of spec, but it supports Wi-Fi 6. And if we look at the design, you'll notice the panel is at the front on this. This is quite handy for putting in a rack mount kit, so you can, as a rack mount kit we sell, that you can just slot the router into, the same as all the other models. It's the same case. So if you've got any rack mount kits from the 2860 or 2862s, they're compatible with the 2866 unit. And if we look at the LEDs on the front, you've got the LED indicators. The actual LEDs vary from different models, so the non-wireless ones don't have the wireless LEDs, but they still have the 9 used for other things instead. Then we got the USB port. Number 3 there is the WAN 2, which is also usable as P6. If you don't use the WAN 2 port, you can convert it into a LAN port, which gives you up to 6 LAN ports in total. Then we have the DSL interface as well. And on the back of the unit, that cut at the top shows the rear of the unit. You can see the 2 SIM slots on the LTE supporting model, and that will also have additional aerials as well. So on the back of the AC there'll be 2, on the LAC there'll be 4, so 2 for the wireless and 2 for the LTE. And now let's take a look at some of the features. They're very similar to the 2865. So it kind of has the same great feature set that was introduced by the 2865 and 2765 series. But let's first look at the VPN capability. So it has all the kind of VPN capability you'd expect from a DrayTek product. The virtual private networking allows you to create private tunnels from either branches or from home into the router. The 2766 can have 2 active VPN tunnels that allows teleworkers to connect and access local network resources, and it can also make dial-out or VPN clients, so you can have a LAN-to-LAN tunnel linked to other routers, like to a head office. So you can have 2766s around satellite offices, and then maybe a 2866 or one of our higher WAN throughput routers like the 3910 or 2962 as the HQ. The 2766 supports 2 connections, and then the 2866 supports up to 32. And they both support OpenVPN and SSL, 2 and 16 connections supported on that. It's 32 active, of which 16 can be SSL or VPN, so it's not 32 plus 16. And the OpenVPN is quite good for cross-compatibility with other vendors, but also the SSL is quite useful for getting through firewalls. And the DrayTek Smart VPN client is really useful and is supported by many different types of devices like tablets and phones. You can download the application on the various app stores, and that allows you to create a teleworker VPN into the router. This is sometimes a nice alternative to IPsec. I mean, IPsec's really secure, but SSL still is. It's encrypted using TLS, but it gives you a nice alternative because it's quite good at traversing that. So let's now look at other features. We've got support for mesh, so the 2866 supports mesh wireless, so you can wirelessly connect from the 2866 to other access points, and that's quite useful. It will also support, oh actually I'll talk about that later when I talk about the AX. There's also the ability on the AX models to go to the AX supporting access points, but I'll cover that a bit later. Other features is the VLAN support. So on the 2766 it's up to 4 VLANs, and on the 2866 it's 8 VLANs. The VLANs allow you to separate networks or potentially have multiple companies going through the same router, and or different departments. Also supply different wireless networks as well, quite useful for guest network access, so that you're separating them from the main network. And the router has a DHCP for each LAN as well. So if you having different VLANs, you can have the router with doing the DHCP for each of those LANs. And additionally, you can do VLAN tagging if you want, if you're connecting it to a switch as well. So that's all compatible, so you can get quite complex network topologies. Network features, I mean, there's a lot of different features on this. I don't have time, I think, today to cover them all. On the 2865 webinar, which is in the video section, we've got a more detailed explanation of some of these if you want to look at that. But kind of some of the things to touch on now is it supports the content-based filtering based on global view. So this allows you to do filtering based on categories. So you can say which categories you don't want to allow access to, and it is able to block those based on inspecting the traffic and often looking at the DNS as well, looking at the DNS requests to help with that. So even if the connection is going to a TLS, so a HTTPS website, the global view can still act by looking at the DNS request related to that to block that. And we have policy-based routing as well, which allows you to send traffic however you want. So you can send it to different websites, maybe for a VPN tunnel, or you can limit what traffic goes through a 4G connection. There's lots of flexibility in that so that you can control which WANs are used for which purposes and by which users. Other network features is the free DrayTek DNS account. This allows you to, if you've got a dynamic IP address, have a host name that's fixed so that you can easily access it remotely, and then support for Let's Encrypt, which is a service that allows you to easily get a certificate, which is quite useful for PCI certification. If you need to replace your self-signed certificate, this allows you to do that quite easily. And that means that when you go to the HTTPS management of the router, you don't get certificate warnings because it can be verified with its authenticity. And we've also got a free VPN matcher service. It's kind of a concierge. So one of the problems that people sometimes has, if you've got two routers behind NAT, how do you create a VPN tunnel between those devices? What the VPN matcher service does is allows the two devices to find a way to tunnel behind that by them both going to the VPN matcher service to help with opening ports. It doesn't actually tunnel the VPN via the VPN matcher. The VPNs go directly, but it just is a way of helping facilitate the initiation and creation of the VPN tunnels. So that's quite useful. There's some information on our website if you want to look into more detail on the VPN matcher. Other features are the captive portal. So if you want to have guest access, you can have a walled garden whitelist, have people log in before they access the internet. So that's quite useful for guests or public spaces or kind of things like in a pub environment if people have customers visiting. And you can do this per SSID as well. So you can have an SSID for the corporate, and then you have a separate one for public access. And additionally, we've got support for BGP, Border Gateway Protocol, so you can do automating of routing. So this is quite good for large and complex networks where new routes are added, they're automatically propagated between the routers using BGP. And also for extra resilience, you've got high availability. That means that you can have two routers connected to each other locally on the same site, and they can act as a failover to each other with a primary and secondary. So if for some reason the hardware fails on the primary, then the secondary can take over. So that gives you hardware redundancy on site. And finally, if we just look at the LAC, just to take a closer look at the dual SIM, you can see in the rear you've got two SIMs there in the slot. They're standard size SIMs, and you can put two in, but only one is active at any one time. But that's quite useful if maybe the first one runs out of credit, it will automatically fail over to the second one. Or more commonly, if you don't know which this can have the best signal. Having two different operators can sometimes allow you to have kind of two bites of the cherry. So that's quite useful to have that facility. Only one can be active at any one time, but it's something that is quite a useful option to have. The LTE aerials in the two in the middle, you can see the picture on the top right, the stands that come with. They've got a metallic base. You can actually stick them on the side of a cabinet to get a bit of better signal, but we do have external aerials as well as an optional extra. You can get an external aerial from us that allows you to put it on the outside of a building to get the best possible signal. And we also have quality-based load balancing as well. This is a new feature to the 2866, 2865 range. Also, it includes on the 2927 as well. And quality-based load balancing means that it's looking at things like latency, jitter, packet loss, and bandwidth speed, and allowing you to set up load balancing so that it does the load balancing based on the priorities that you want to specify. So you can say whether or not low latency or low packet loss is important, and that can allow you to prioritize which WAN is used. You can also see in the general setup the recordings of what it's monitoring here. In the screenshot, you can see the latency just from packet loss that's been seen on each of those WAN connections. And the next thing to talk about is central management. So in addition to being able to manage them fully locally, you don't need to use central management, but it's something that's an option. So the routers are completely capable of being managed on their own and operate independently. But once you've got multiple routers, many sites, it often is easier to manage them using some form of cloud management. And I want to just go through the options we've got here. One is using either the self-hosted or cloud versions of Vicor ACS that you can get from DrayTek. These allow you to, via the central control panel, look at any of your routers in your estate, and you get a nice dashboard that shows you the statuses, device information, things like firmware version, sync speeds, overview of the WAN throughputs, and each of the usage of each WAN connection, and other bits and pieces in there that can be useful. And also for maintenance, you can easily do individual firmware upgrades from the cloud to an individual unit, or alternatively, you can apply firmware upgrades to a bunch of units in one go. So you could schedule it overnight to a group or network of routers, but also it can also do it to the APs or switches. And then you'll get reports of which ones have successfully upgraded, so you can then check to see if there's any issues. There's also reporting. So if you wanted to do a report to find out what firmware version was on the units, or what all the device names or information maybe on the different WAN connections, you can run those reports. They can be run kind of as a bespoke report one-off, or it can be scheduled, so you could run it maybe once a day or once a week or something to do some reporting on various stats. There's different types of report that are available in there, kind of for different things that you might be interested in. And then new to Vicor ACS 3 is the SD-WAN, and this is something that's supported on 2865, 2866, and 2927 series of routers. So it's also on the 3910 as well. And this brings kind of extra information that allows kind of more automation, smarter traffic routing, but also more detailed usage information. To start with, there's kind of auto VPN, which when enabled automates the VPN setup and monitoring, so that you can more easily do drag and drop VPNs from different offices. Then we have the SD-WAN dashboard. This gives you quite detailed information on how the routers are performing at a site level, so you can see at a network level, so you can see the quality of each type of connection: wired, wireless, WAN, which is mobile, and then your VPN and VoIP. And it uses something called MOS, which is mean opinion score, and that takes in things like jitter, latency, and packet loss, and gives it a rating out of 5. And that average allows you to see the quality of the line. Here we can see on the bottom left-hand side, the active WAN quality is showing that 2 of them have got a great score on, and 3 have got a good score. So this gives you a picture of how the whole estate is performing. And if we look at the dashboard here, and slightly larger, you can also see the upper sections on the right. You've got the VoIP quality as well. You can see the active VoIP calls as well, what's been detected. And you can get this summary per site, but also you can drill down and look at this at an individual device basis. Here's the monitoring on an individual router. You can see the usage, interface, quality scores, latency, jitter, and packet loss over a period of time. And you can also look at historic data as well. Then we've got the monitoring of the different WANs. You see WAN statuses of each WAN, and we can see the uptime and information about packet loss and latency. Also, you can see which WAN is being used for VoIP. And there's VPN status as well. You can see where the VPNs are connected to, and that allows you to easily monitor each of the VPN tunnels from one place. And we have a VoIP monitoring as well, so it can list all the active calls and see the quality of those calls, which is quite useful for troubleshooting if there's any issues with the quality. This can be also monitored. So you can, in each unit, set the VoIP WAN, and you can set target MOS scores, and say that if another WAN is better by a set, so you might set a MOS score of 3.5 as a minimum, and if another one is better by say 0.3, it will then alternate to go to a different WAN and automatically send VoIP over the other WAN connection. And finally, we've got some app-based data usage as well, so we can see via application different app types going through the router, and also by client we can see the usage as well over time, which is useful for getting a better picture of how the network's performing and what sort of traffic is going across the network. And finally, we got the kind of app-based quality route policy as well, which you can set profiles for. So when you go into, this is on the ACS server, you can select the different apps and say which WAN interface you want those to go via. Also, there's central management via locally, so you can use the router to manage switches locally, or you can use the router to manage access points. Or it can act as a mesh wireless. There's different support for different number of APs. So the 2866 supports a large number of each of these devices, where the 2766 just supports 2 APs in app management. And this allows you to centrally control everything. So rather than having to configure it individually on the device, you can do this from the router itself to manage the other devices. So let's just look at the pricing availability of the models. So the 2766, 2766 AC, they're going to be available, should be later this week for the AC, and then the week after to the 2766. These are a suggested retail price of around 169 and 229. The 2866s, they've already launched, but we're currently out of stock. We're waiting for confirmation of when we're going to get stock in Q4, but you may find some of the distributors or resellers might have some stock, so do check with them. And the 2766 LAC is currently in stock at the moment as well. That's got a SRP of 499. And finally, I just want to take a look at the Wi-Fi 6 routers. So we've got two that we're launching currently, the 2865AX and the 2927AX. The 2927 is our Ethernet WAN product, so rather than having DSL built into it, it's got two Ethernet WAN ports, so it means you can connect it to 2 FTTP connections. These all have the same capability of the other wireless models, including supporting mesh, so it can connect to Wi-Fi 5 access points, but also it can connect to Wi-Fi 6 access points like the 960C and the 1060C for a high performance mesh. So Wi-Fi 6 brings even better wireless performance to DrayTek's routers with greater efficiency. Beyond just the higher speeds and increased capability, the Wi-Fi 6 standard, also called 8211AX, improves the user experience in several ways. One is target wait time. This allows clients to have a better battery usage of mobile devices by only having to transmit when they need to, rather than having to continually stay connected to the AP. So that's better from the point of view battery usage for the users. Another advantage is lower latency and more reliable connectivity, which benefits from all sorts of things, from VoIP calls to video conferencing and streaming and gaming. This primarily is enabled by OFDMA, which stands for Orthogonal Frequency Division Multiple Access. This is an advanced technology for sharing the radio with multiple users and allows the AP to provide data to many users at once. And another feature that also helps with reliability is BSS coloring. This allows clients to more easily ignore interference on their channel by a color coding mechanism, which allows them to spot traffic that's from their network, but also identify if the wireless channel is clear for them to send packets. And on the security side, we've got support for WPA3, which is a stronger security and the latest WPA encryption method. This also wireless users can now benefit from gigabit WAN performance of the router, because with support for hardware acceleration, it means that the wireless clients can get full gigabit internet access all the way out to the WAN. You can enable this through the hardware acceleration setup menu. And if we just look closely at the performance, the Wi-Fi 6 performance is AX3000. This is AX600 on the 2.4 and AX2400 on the 5 GHz range. So unlike on 8211AC, where the performance boost was really just on the 5 GHz range, the dual band nature of Wi-Fi 6 allows performance and improved range on both the 2.4 and 5 GHz ranges. This is quite important from the point of view of coverage, because 2.4 gets generally propagates the signal better because it's a lower frequency, so it has a bit better range. So this means that you can get a slightly higher speeds as well. The 2.4 gig goes up to around 574 megabits, whereas the 5 gig can achieve a rate of around 2.4 gigabits per second. So potentially that gives your clients, if they're connecting on the 5 gig range, up to full gigabit throughput. This speed boost is good for clients like phones and tablets, because the way it's done is focused on larger channel usage rather than increasing the number of spatial streams. The more spatial streams that is used is good for performance increases, but it increases power consumption. So the method used in Wi-Fi 6 is to increase the channel bandwidth from 80 to 160 megahertz channels, which then allows it to double the throughput. If you'd like to get any more detail of the features of Wi-Fi 6, I recommend checking out our in-depth coverage of this in the Vigo AP 960C webinar for a deep dive on the wireless technologies, but also the Wi-Fi solution page has an overview. We'll post some of the links to those in the chat, so you can take a look at those later if you want to. Pricing availability on these products. So the 2865AX is launching today. We've got availability of stock. Check with your distributors or resellers for purchasing those. And the SRP for that is 329 plus VAT. The 2866AX is going to be launching later in the year, and the 2927AX should be available later this week. There's been a bit of a freight delay on that, so we were expecting it to be available today, but it's just been pushed back very slightly, and that is retailing at a similar price of 329. So that sums up everything on the pricing availability, and I'd like to now go over to a Q&A session, as that completes the content we've got for today. I think I'll oh, I forgot Gillian here.
Yeah, hi Alex, so I didn't want to interrupt you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thank you very much, Alex. Excellent presentation, and great to see some new products from DrayTek coming to the market. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Julian Hubble. I'm the sales director for DrayTek, and so really pleased that we managed to bring these new products to you today. So I'm going to host the Q&A session now, which we should be around about 10 or 15 minutes. So for those of you wondering how long this webinar is going to be, we should be finished easily by 11 o'clock, just to kind of let you know. So we've got a number of questions, some really good questions actually, but I thought what I'd do first is just give you a little bit of an update on stock availability. All of you, I'm sure, will be aware there's an industry issue with supply of component parts, which is affecting all parts of the industry, not just the networking industry, but other related industries as well, and unfortunately we've not been immune from that. I want to thank you all for your commitment through this tricky time. We were absolutely doing our best to find product. At the moment we're living a little bit hand to mouth. We're working hard with DrayTek to make sure we expedite manufacturing and expedite shipment, and we're doing our best to spread this across the channel, but I appreciate there have been some outages there. The general situation seems to be that towards the end of Q4, probably around about the November-December time, we are expecting things to improve, and it looks like Q1 will be a better situation as well. So we're not through the woods yet, but the situation does appear to be improving as more and more component parts become available, which is good to see. With regard to the products you've just had presented today, the 2766 and the 2866, please don't forget we also have the 2865 and 2765. Obviously, you'll know that the 66 range is the G-Fast, high speed technology. The 65 is VDSL and downwards. But actually, for many situations, if you don't actually need G.Fast, you could use either. So if you are experiencing difficulties in supply and it's a VDSL requirement, there's no reason why you couldn't use an available 2866, 2766 to fill that particular need. So with new products coming through, it does mean we'll have hopefully more stock, which hopefully gives you more options when you're trying to put that business class solution into your customers. The other thing I would say is that we have much better news on access points now. The very popular AP903, which is our wall-mounted access point, one of our most popular, is now back in stock, and we've got good stock supplies, as is the AP912C, which is our ceiling-mounted device that many of you will know. So, if you were looking at other things, or you've been doing something differently, or been delaying projects, please be assured we do have those access points back in stock now, and it looks like we've got reasonable good stock for the time being. So that's the general situation. Sorry we haven't been able to provide everything that you've required. Certainly in my experience, these are unprecedented times. We're doing everything we possibly can to improve it. And as I say, towards the middle of Q4, probably we expect the situation to improve. So having sort of covered that, I'd now like to just move on to some questions and give Alex a bit of a breather there. So first question I've got is regarding G.Fast, actually. So it's kind of two questions which I'll kind of roll into one. Somebody asking, what's the maximum speed of G.Fast? Okay, that's the theory, but in practice, what's the typical throughput I can expect on G.Fast? And a kind of secondary question, how do I check if G.Fast is available in my area? So Alex, I wonder if you want to address that joint question there.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. So the maximum speed you're going to get is 330 in the UK, because the OpenReach have got a line profile, which means that they cap it at that. So you're not going to get higher than that, even if you're right on the doorstep of the cabinet. But the real world speeds in practice tend to be between kind of 250 to 330, with kind of a minimum of around 100 to 150. I think below that, that's where you probably be offered a VDSL based service instead of G.Fast. If you're further away, as in the graph, you can see that there's a point at which VDSL is the same sort of speed as G.Fast. So at that, they when in the checkers, they'll probably look at your line, realize that it's too far, and probably only offer you a VDSL based service. On the subject of availability, there are some checkers online. That there's a few of them around. Normally, each of the ISPs will offer that, and when you put in your telephone number or postcode, it'll give you the availability of the different packages and options. And if it's kind of the super fast, the ultra fast option of around up to 330, then that's likely to be potentially G.Fast, but there is also an FTTP option as well on that. The thing with the checkers, though, to be available is some ISPs don't offer G.Fast, so it's down to the ISP to consume that from OpenReach. They might not offer G.Fast. So depending on whether or not the ISP themselves have taken on the G.Fast technology will depend on whether or not it becomes available on the checker. So there are some third-party checkers that are able to kind of look at what's available of different providers in the area, but often looking at the BT checker is one way of looking at it, because they will offer G.Fast if it's available, and then you could then potentially go to your other ISPs if there's someone that you often use, to then see if they offer it and compare what the different checkers are providing. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, it's a good answer there. I think that's the other sort of comments I'll make is obviously G.Fast rollout is sort of gathering a bit of pace there. Obviously, we do have the FTTP fibre rollouts as well, and I think hopefully a combination of G.Fast or fibre should be available in areas at some stage in the future. And I think great thing about the 66 range is you could use that product to plug into either, so it's quite a good future-proof product for whatever might be coming. So that's something to bear in mind there. Okay, next question is about G.Fast and being able to upgrade G.Fast. I think I know the answer to this question, but if I've got a 2862 or a 2865, can I upgrade it to support GFast? I suspect the answer is no, but Alex, over to you.
So yes, it's down to the frequencies because GFast uses different frequency ranges. In the deployments here, it's up to 106. Actually, the standard does support a 212 variant, but that's only really suitable for kind of multi-dwelling units where you've got a flat, which is, but that's not something that's really deployed in the UK. But yeah, because of the different frequency ranges, it means that an older model that supports the VDSL can't really be updated in any way to support GFast, so unfortunately it requires different hardware and a different chipset. So it's only the 2866, 2766 that are capable of supporting GFast in our range. All the other ones would be VDSL.
Yeah, I think also to make a general comment, and those of you that have been DrayTek customers for some years will probably know that what we try and do is bring enhanced, technology through free firmware releases, which many of you have taken advantage of. If it can be done in software and firmware, we would usually do it actually at no extra cost, and you can upgrade the device. But this is linked into specific hardware, specific chipsets, so unfortunately we can't do it for that. Okay, question about DOCSIS. Do DrayTek do a DOCSIS router or modem? There must be a specific COAX requirement there.
Yes, so DOCSIS is the underlying technology which Virgin Media use for their network, and we don't have any routers that natively, or modems that natively support DOCSIS. But even if we did, you wouldn't actually be able to connect them to Virgin Media because they only allow their DOCSIS modems to be connected. The solution on that is actually quite straightforward because we have Ethernet WAN presentation, and with Virgin Media, they provide a modem that can be, a modem router that can be turned into a modem mode. So you can very easily just connect your DrayTek router to the Virgin Media supplied modem and then get a connection there. The nice thing about doing that is it means that the Virgin Media device doesn't need to worry about any of the higher level kind of features and can just focus on doing the modem task, and then you offloading all of that responsibility to the DrayTek. So take a look on we've got some instructions on our website on how you can configure that. And also there was an FTTP related all you need to know about GPON and ONTs video that's in the on the video section that covers some of that in more detail.
Yeah. On the DrayTek.co.uk website, yep. Really recommend taking a look into that. Is that in the knowledge base section, if my memory serves me right?
The video section, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. There's questions about availability, which hopefully we've kind of covered, but I say we do recommend you check with your distributor. And obviously I made a comment on kind of other options you may want to consider there. Question about the 2866 LTE variant. So the category, the LTE category variant. So they're asking here, is Cat6, for example, supported in the 2866 LAC? Oh
yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I did omit to talk about that. So the LTE support on the 2866 is supports 4G up to Cat6. The previous series, the 2862, supported up to Cat4. The 2865 LTE variants also support Cat6. What this means is speeds of up to 300 megabits per second from the mobile operator can be supported. On Cat4, it was up to 150 megabits per second. So the answer is yes, it does support Cat6. Okay, that's cool. A question about security here. Do the wireless GFast models support WPA3 for wireless security? Yes, they do. In fact, both the Wi-Fi 5 and the Wi-Fi 6 ones do. So the 2866 AC supports WPA3 as well as the 2865 AX and the 2927 AX. And the 2766 AC also supports WPA. I should just say yes, all of them do. No. Yeah, we confused it with a few models there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, some good questions about ACS. Yeah, so obviously many of you as dealers will know the ACS system. I know a lot of you use it. Some of you may not know. I'm not sure that there is a free cloud version of ACS available to dealers, which we'd encourage you to take a look at. There's a question about the ACS3 and specifically the SD-WAN capability. Currently, it's not offered as a hosted service from DrayTek. There's a question about will it be upgraded to ACS3, and if so, when will that be available? In fact, I'd like to ask that question myself, Alex. So we're working on that. Yes, it's something that we hoping to potentially have by the end of this quarter, but if not, it'll be definitely something that we're launching in Q4.
Okay, so Q4, so that will come through. We just got to make sure we got the right provision for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Will the 2927 have a Wi-Fi 6 model? I think we already answered that, didn't we? There is a 2927AX model coming out.
2927. Yes, yeah, 2927AX. Yes, that's right.
2927. Yeah, so there's Wi-Fi 6 coming to that. And there's a question here. This does come up a bit where I kind of want an LTE device, but I don't specifically want wireless. So do I have to buy the the LAC that's got the L that I want, but maybe the wireless that I don't? I think there is a disable function. I think, Alex, do you want to just expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so you can disable the wireless. You can also disable it so that it can't be turned on as well on the front. There's a wireless button on the front, which you can use to turn it on and off, but you can disable that button so that it can't be used to inadvertently turn the wireless on. So if you're wanting to turn the wireless off, then that can be done.
Yeah, so you can almost...
Yeah, but
so
there isn't. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just going to add that there isn't a LT version that just supports L. All of the ones that we carry do include the wireless as well.
Okay, so you can kind of hard code the wireless out. So you need to buy a model that actually has wireless, but you can kind of hard code it out so nobody can accidentally use it, which would not be recommended. Okay.
And you don't have to connect the aerials as well. It's totally safe to have the aerials disconnected as well if you wanted to save the space from that point of view.
Okay, I think I've got a final question here, which is a bit of an essay question, I think. How to improve VPN throughput speed? So I'm not sure if that's how long is a piece of string, but is there any sort of best practice to make sure your VPN throughput's as good as it can be?
Yeah, I guess one thing is make sure hardware acceleration is enabled so that the hardware accelerator can help boost it above the kind of non-hardware accelerated speeds, which is still reasonably fast, but it just gets it to be that bit faster for IPsec. Also, looking at the protocols, the accelerator there is for IPsec, not for LTTP. So look at changing the protocol if you're happening to use LTTP or even PPTP. You look at the IPsec. You'll generally find IPsec is going to be slightly higher in total throughput capability compared to SSL. So if performance is the main goal, then IPsec is the option to pick instead of SSL. But beyond that, I think that it probably is kind of quite case specific potentially.
Yeah.
Often it's the down speed the up speed that's going to be the limiting factor. So do look at that and check to see what the up speed is of the connection, because although you can have a decent down speed on the connection, like on an 8020, it would be 80 meg down, but you've still got that 20 meg up. So it would be looking at the HQ and looking at what up speed is available to it. So I'd be looking at if that is the bottleneck, the limiting factor.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's a bit of trial and error involved to get the ultimate, but obviously please do contact our DrayTek support centre here in Bournemouth, who'll be happy to help you as well. So don't be shy about doing that if you need more help. Okay, I think that pretty much wraps things up. So I just want to summarise by thanking you, Alex, for that excellent presentation, and also all the team behind the webinar. So it's not just Alex, there's many people behind this, making this hopefully a success. So thank you all the DrayTek team. And also to you, our dealers, thank you so much for your ongoing commitment. Thank you for spending time out of your day to join us today. And as I said, we're doing our damnedest to improve this availability situation. I know it's been quite frustrating, but it does look like there's some light at the end of the tunnel there. Please do contact us and your distributor about availability, and we'll do our best to help you. So without further ado, enjoy today, which looks like the last day of the summer, if the weather forecast can be believed. And we look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future on our next webinar. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Phil.